Hi everyone, my name is Douglas. Raise your hand if you love juicy burgers. Wow, so many of you. It might be hard to believe, but I hadn't tried them until I was 16. That's when something happened to me. But my story isn't going to be about vegetarians and those who like to eat meat. It's about me and my weird mom. Subscribe to the channel and I will tell you the story of how I became a completely different person. My mom has been an animal rights activist for as long as I can remember. She's never eaten meat or any animal product at all. She's devoted her life to protecting nature from those who would harm it. Living with her was hard. It's little wonder why my dad couldn't bear it and left when I was still a kid. That's why I was raised by my mom. She got me into the habit of following her diet and told me how important it was to take care of nature. She'd been bringing me to all sorts of eco-activist rallies and protests since I was a kid. Naturally, I felt part of their team and thought that when I grew up, I would become a conservationist as well. That's what my mother taught me, and I trusted her. She even had her own channel. She made videos as a vegetarian trainer and encouraged people to give up eating meat. She also posted videos of the protests she filmed with like-minded people. And then, one day, she decided to organize a protest to save animals from a local zoo. My mom believed that they should live in the wild, not in cages, and wanted them to be released. To be honest, for the first time, I wasn't so sure about her plan. First of all, the zoo animals were kept in spacious enclosures, not cages. Moreover, I had no idea exactly where she was planning on releasing them in the center of our metropolis. However, my mom refused to listen to me and said that drawing public attention to the issue was the most important thing. Oh, it drew attention, all right. The following day, all the newspapers and TV channels were talking about a crazy eco-activist who'd snuck into the zoo at night and set the animals free. Rescuers spent the whole night catching the animals, running wild, and bringing them back. Then, my mom was charged and fined. What's more, when they found out what she'd done at her work, they immediately fired her. After she'd lost her job and main source of income, she had to move to a new place and start all over again. Naturally, she took me with her. We moved to a beautiful town close to a national park. We rented a house and I started going to a new school. The people there were much kinder than those in a big city and made me feel welcome at once. However, after a few days, I became quite an attraction in my new school. Many students listened to my speeches about animal welfare with curiosity and watched, surprised, as I ate lunch I'd brought from home. I could not eat what was being given in the dining hall, so my mom cooked special meals for me. It turned out that none of my classmates had ever met a vegetarian before. Because of that, I even got to meet Martha, the coolest girl in school. She was interested in just about everything, and we chatted for a long time about all sorts of stuff. I liked her at once. Even though she was very popular, she was extremely friendly and not at all stuck up. After a while, we became close friends and started meeting after school. Long story short, I was happy with my new life. However, one day, when I got home, I saw Mom with some guy. They were discussing my mom's rallies and speeches. When she saw me, she said cheerfully, "Hey Douglas, meet Winston. He's an activist and a conservationist." It turned out my mom had already found some locals who shared her views. To be honest, I was still a little angry with her for the stupid thing she had done at the zoo. And now she was suddenly back at it? She'd found out there was a large factory in the town that made meat products, and she was planning to stop it with the help of her new friend. Of course, I supported her, but I felt she wasn't doing the right thing. Yes, I'd lost interest in what my mother was doing because fighting for the preservation of nature was good, but doing strange things everyone around you would suffer from really wasn't. So I started spending more time with Martha, which I liked a lot more than going to protests with my mom. One day, Martha said that she would show me a real miracle and took me to the nature reserve nearby. I'd never been in the wild before, and I'd only ever seen animals on my tablet screen. Feeding real deer out of my hands felt incredible. "How can you protect animals if you've never actually met them?" said Martha cheerfully. She was right. It opened a whole new world for me. You didn't need to scream about loving nature with a poster in your hands for it to be true. Simply living in harmony with it was enough. After our trip to the reserve, we felt hungry, so Martha took me to a diner with the best burgers in the city. Of course, there was meat in them, so I immediately refused to eat them. "Suit yourself," said Martha indifferently, and started to eat her juicy hamburger with a great appetite. I realized that I looked like a coward in her eyes at that moment. I really wanted her to think I was cool. That's why I decided that nothing terrible would happen if I ate one hamburger and boldly took a bite out of it. And you know what? It turned out to be delicious. The pickles were crispy, the smell of toasted buns reminded me of home and comfort, and the patty and hot sauce was something out of this world. I didn't even notice how I had eaten the whole burger. Martha looked at me and smiled. "I told you they made the best burgers in the world here," she said cheerfully. And she was right. Why had I denied myself that pleasure before? That day was full of new impressions for me. I felt really happy. However, I was in for an unpleasant surprise at home. As soon as I walked in, my mom jumped on me. "Douglas, what is the meaning of all of this? How could you do that to the poor animals?" she shouted. I didn't know what she was talking about, but then she told me that her new boyfriend Winston had seen me gobbling down on a burger with a patty earlier that day. He'd immediately called my mom. She saw it as me betraying both her and the poor cow I had mercilessly devoured. At that moment, I felt guilty. However, I couldn't really see what I had done to feel guilty for. Of course, I apologized to my mother, but I also started to doubt that she meant me well. The next day, I went to school in a bad mood. I felt like Winston was following me everywhere so that he could snitch on me to my mom again. Martha met me in class and cheerfully asked me if I wanted to go eat another delicious burger with her. I winced at the word burger and angrily said that I had had enough of those. Martha looked very surprised and asked what was wrong with me, but the bell rang and we were interrupted by the teacher walking into the classroom. She spent the whole day trying to talk to me, but I stubbornly avoided her. I felt ashamed, but I couldn't help it. I thought my mother would find out about it straight away. However, when I left school, Martha finally cornered me. "Douglas, come on, tell me, what's the matter?" she asked angrily. I realized that there was no other way to get rid of her, so I told her about the conversation I'd had with my mom the previous day. As soon as I finished, I saw disappointment in my classmates' eyes. Of course, she didn't want to hear about what a coward I was. "I thought you were an adult and could decide what kind of life you wanted to live by yourself," Martha said sadly and left. I felt very hurt. Not because a girl had said that to me, but because she had been absolutely right. So far, I'd always been doing what my mom wanted me to. But what did I want? When I got home, I immediately ran into my mom and Winston. They looked happy and excited. I found out that a half hour before that, they had sneaked into the territory of the meat-producing factory and broken something that had caused an accident and made all the work there stop. My mom said it was revenge for all the animals that had been hurt there. She was celebrating the victory with Winston, and I suddenly realized that my mom simply liked acting crazy, and I wasn't going to pretend to be on her side anymore. So I openly said that I thought it had been a dumb thing to do, and I was very ashamed of her behavior. The smile immediately fell off of her face. My mother yelled at me and sent me to my room, but I was glad. After all, I wanted to live the way I wanted to from then on. I decided that I would meet Martha and go for burgers with her, even if my mom didn't like it. I wanted to talk to Martha the next day, but for some reason she looked very angry and did not want to speak to me. What was going on? I spent the whole day trying to find out what happened, but she just kept running away and ignoring me. After school, I cornered her in the same way that she had cornered me, and I told her I wouldn't let her go till I heard an answer. That's when Martha pushed me away and said angrily, "Your crazy mother caused an accident at my dad's factory yesterday. He suffered losses because of her." Oh no. It turned out she was the daughter of the owner of that factory. I started to apologize for my mother and said that I had had nothing to do with it, but Martha refused to listen to me and left. I got so angry with my mother. I wanted to tell her to stop messing up both my life and her own. However, when I got home, I saw her packing up. She looked scared and lost. I didn't understand what was going on. My mom said sadly that she had been detained by the police earlier that day. She had been charged and fired once again. Douglas, do you know how difficult being an animal rights activist is? She asked. We'll have to move to a new place again. I couldn't believe it was happening again. Just how many times would we have to move? After that, my mother had no intention of stopping and would definitely do something stupid in the new place once again. No, I'm not going to leave. I want to make up with the girl I like and live my life like I want to. But I can't leave my mother either. She's sure to get into trouble without me. What should I do? Write your ideas in the comments down below. Please hurry. My mom has already called a taxi.